Hi guys, Togo here with a new video, and this video will be me reacting on the video from Sympathies talking about Elemental Shaman Tragedy, yes, big words, on the rework of Elemental Shaman. And I already watched the video, but I wanted to react for you guys and talk and rebuttal a lot of stuff that he is actually talking about, but mostly also showing you guys that it looks like a video made very quickly because he plays, or at least he shows the Elemental Shaman with a build that you probably would never take into Arena or into RPGs or whatever. But I'm going to show you guys once we are like at that point. So
the Elemental Shaman rework is
the video.
available on the beta.
I'm going to
It has
advance
now
a bit because
fire or a mixture of all of the elements together, which is partially true, but with some of the core changes they have made to the class, some things are starting to get a little janky and a bit frustrating. But let's focus on the positives. The main positives for Shaman moving into the War Within is that your baseline class talent tree is phenomenal.
And yeah, he is right. The class tree is very, very good. I would actually say one of the better class trees in the game, although it is very true that on the class tree there is nothing like throughput-wise on the bottom side of the talents, where I would probably put Ascendance on the class tree probably, or even Primordial Wave, because like the 3 specs use those 2 abilities, even deeply rooted elements to be fair. So I feel like a lot of stuff can be still going in the class tree, and then you could have like really a big rework on the spec trees. But I think that would be maybe for a next phase of changes, which can still happen. But what I've found very weird is that on the class tree, there are points that he took that you would never take going into PvP arenas or RPGs. I feel like he shows the Elemental Shaman with talents that are not really making sense. Like he doesn't play with Spirit Walker's Aegis, so the silence immunity whenever you're using Spirit Walker's Grace. He's using this healing stream totem buffs and the buff and also the totem, which you don't have the points for it. He doesn't go for the Thunderstorm talent. In my opinion, is a very sleeper talent, which basically is able to Thunderstorm from 40 yards on an ally. So if you're playing with a warlock or with a healer, you could easily like Thunderstorm them away from them. It's still a niche talent though. I understand that you might play around it, but you can also play the talent which is giving you a reduction on a interrupt. So if you're interrupting a target, the school of spell that got interrupted, that will get you yourself a defensive 15% damage reduction times 2 if you're doing that 2 times in a row. So there are still a few things that I'm not really agreeing and that I feel like they could easily get fixed, or like he took the speed talent next to the chain lightning. Like for example this one, you would never take it because it is a very bad talent. This one is a very situation talent. I think Elemental Shaman can play that, but I think there are other talents that are way better. Like for example, you take this out, you take this out, and you take the imbue, which is very useless, but you can take this one, which is very nice, especially versus classes, which you will probably encounter in Soul Shuffle. So there's a lot of stuff that I would do otherwise, and he didn't really do that. But
reducing all of the talent points down to 1 means that you get very high value from a lot of these talent points that otherwise would have taken 2 of them. Things like Totemic Surge for 6 seconds off the cooldown, Voodoo Mastery for snares onto our Hex, as well as cooldown reduction, access to mobility, trading off for other versions of mobility. Just the entire talent tree for the Shaman side, no matter what specialization of Shaman you're playing, has been laid out excellently. I would say it's a massive improvement from the previous class baseline Shaman tree. So take that, you know, as it may. Things like Stone Bulwark Totem, unfortunately though, at least in, you know, PvP situations, but even not PvP, right? It's about 1 million absorb on a 6 million health pool. And when I compared it to things like Mage with Blazing Barrier, it's basically a Blazing Barrier on a 2-minute cooldown for the amount of absorbs they're getting now, where they can get multiple shields at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. The totem doesn't shield too much. It is still a nice to have though. You will probably play that, but it needs balancing, and that's true. It needs balancing, but I think if people need to judge Elemental Shaman right now, it is about the design. You can say some things are undertuned. That's a good, well thought out, spoken thing about Elemental Shaman. It actually needs tuning. We all agree about that. But say that it's actually a tragedy how it got reworked is, in my opinion, a very bad take because it has nothing to do with the design. It has to do with the balancing. If everything got buffed by 20%, you would not talk about that. You would be talking about a good spec. But that's my opinion
So
about it.
unfortunately, the shielding effect for this, and again, this is maybe a numerical thing and a number
And
tuning
hopefully I
thing.
don't make
Like
a
if it
too
was a
long
1
video.
minute cooldown, I could see this absorb having a lot more impact. But at the
Yeah, 1
moment,
minute
it did
cooldown would
not
be good
feel that strong,
for that
unfortunately,
amount.
with this. You know, one of the negative elements of this class baseline tree, but I really love the layout. Everything feels a lot more accessible. It feels like there's more logical and tactical trades in terms of survivability versus mobility versus totem usage that I really like. The baseline tree, you got no concerns. But then when we get over to the shaman specific tree, things start to get a little messy. One of the first things you'll see that right now I'm playing basically a
So I'm going to stop him right now because he will show you how he plays this build, and then he's going to show you a second build. Both builds are really bad builds in my opinion. Again, I'm going to show you a few things that I would first and foremost not play with. If you're not playing about the lightning build, you don't really care about this one because this is not a lightning build. You don't have Stormkeeper, so why would you take those talents? You don't take the lightning shield giving you more nature damage. Personally, I would not take this, the Maelstrom, because it's only 5% more damage on Earthshock and Elemental Blast. Gives you 50 Maelstrom, but we all see that we have some difficulties building Maelstrom, right? We all see that, even I see that. So it's balancing, it's not design. We don't have enough generation. This is just making your pool bigger while you already have struggles to get an Earthshock out. So don't take this. With those 2 points, you could easily go for Stormkeepers, you could easily go for the Magma Chamber into the Primal Elementalist, because again, I'm going to show you guys. This talent, I'm sorry, if you're not playing that and you're an Elemental Shaman, what are you doing? We are playing in Dragonflight with Primal Elementalist since the beginning of the season. Like Season 1, we played that. Season 2, Season 3, Season 4. And now you decided to actually not play that. So I'm going to show you this talent tree is the talent tree that you would be playing if you were going for a lava burst oriented gameplay with a bit of like frost shock, good damage, and I would say Stormkeeper Go, where you essentially have 80% like haste whenever you're doing a primordial wave on 3 targets with shamanism. And I'll show you the video of Subtleties, but I personally think he took everlasting elements for nothing. It doesn't really give you anything except 6 seconds on an elemental, which you don't really need. You need your elemental for meteor and the. Actually, he cannot even have meteor because he doesn't have primal elementalist, guys. Look, am I crazy? He takes this talent but doesn't take the augmentation to that talent. How can you judge a spec based on that? I know he might have done it rushed and he didn't take the right talents, but it's not the right representation towards his like viewership. I'm sorry. This is literally people are judging me for sometimes clickbaiting. This is for me the worst version of clickbaiting because he's saying that it's a tragedy but doesn't show you exactly why it is a tragedy because he doesn't take the right talents. It's like I say, look, I'm going to play Holy Paladin and I don't take Avenging Crusader. I don't know, man. Whatever. First and foremost, with my build, because I showed it with my Elemental Shaman video, and I don't have the audience that Subtleties has, unfortunately. And yeah, it would have been nice that I would have like 12k views on that video, but that will not happen. But why would you not play Magma Chamber? Why would you, especially since you have slower Maelstrom, you will always have 10 stacks, right? You have Primal Elementals, which is basically giving you a stun on Earth Elemental, which last time I checked, that's the only reason why Earth Elemental is good on Elemental Shaman and not on Enhancement Shaman, for example. Fire Elemental gets Meteor, which you could easily have a macro on it with your Primordial Wave. He doesn't take Stormkeepers. He forces Elemental Equilibrium, which I understand because I also do that, but you could easily take this talent, for example, or you could easily take more Flame Shock damage with Critical Strike, and also having faster CDR on the Fire Elemental, especially since Soul Shuffles on PTR right now, at least, the games are very long. You could play even Echo of the Elements if you want to, although it's very low value still. Again, it's balancing. You could even say, look, I don't care about Elemental Equilibrium and you want more damage on Earth Shock or Elemental Blast. You can take that as well. You could even take Storm Frenzy if you want to like weave some Lightning Bolts, which is a good talent to be fair. Although I would play it more with another build. You could even say, look, I want to go for something else, right? You could do so much more with that 1 point, but you can take it on Elemental Equilibrium and like not change anything on your things, because this gets activated by your Primordial Wave every single time. And Primordial Wave is a 30-second CD on I think the talent trees, it doesn't show it, but it's a 30-second CD on PTR right now. So basically you would always activate it with Elemental Equilibrium. I don't know why it's showing 45 seconds though, but yeah, throughput wise we're not that good, but God's sake, this talent tree sucks. You're taking 2 talents that you should not take if you're taking this build, especially if you're not playing Stormkeepers. You're taking Everlasting Elemental, but you're not taking Primal Elementals, so why bother? And you could easily like take those 2 talent points to actually make it better. And Stormkeepers, I think, is a must, especially even if Farseer doesn't really play too much around Stormkeepers. I think it's still a much needed talent to play around. Yeah, so I'm going to show
a lava version build with the Farseer talent trees. I'll unspec out of Volcanic Surge for now, but one of the main things I've noticed is that there was a significant reduction in the amount of lava burst procs that you are able to get.
So one thing, guys, that's why you need to read carefully the blue posts, right? It's written that single target flame shocks of lava surge procs are augmented. It doesn't mean that it is the best way to get lava surges, guys. The best way is still having 3 targets or multi-targets. It's always the case. In PvE, you want to have as much flame shocks possible to get those lava surges. Even now, if you're going in PvE and you're doing some Mythic Plus, you will get way more instants because you have more flame shocks. But it is written that the chance on proccing lava surges on multiple targets has been reduced. It is just like this. It's math. This is single target flame shock with lava surges. This is AoE flame shocks lava surges. It got narrowed. You understand? It is not single target is better. It is just single target got better from previous iteration. But it is still more AoE that you want to have on Elemental Shaman. Also, judging Elemental Shaman on just purely single target is probably as bad as if you're judging Affliction Warlock on a single target. It's the same kind of spec philosophy. It has always been the case. It's always dot everyone, try to play and outlast the enemy in threes. If you're playing with Affliction Warlock, pretty much that is the comp. If you're playing with a Destruction Warlock, it depends a bit on how you play it, but it's still that kind of spec. So I don't know how you can judge the spec on purely putting a Flame Shock on one target and doing Lava Burst like this, not thinking about the case that you have to Hex still, you still have to Frost Shock to slow, you still have to control the enemy, Lightning Lasso, you have to Flame Shock multiple targets. And then you can do your goes, and you have your Ascendance now, and you have your Deeply Rooted Elements, and you have your Stormkeeper. Obviously, he doesn't play that. I don't know why. There is no reason to not play that, obviously. There's multitude of things that I feel like he didn't do that. And if people are judging on this, why Elemental Shaman is bad, then they have a bad representation. Now it has nothing to do about how you would take it in PvP. It is purely philosophy and design-wise that I'm really not agreeing with him. But okay, I'm going to continue and probably not stop.
Now they said they increased the proc rate on a single target, but you can see right now, aside from that first proc that I got, which is a little bit lucky.
So increased, like I said, I already explained it, right? Increased on a single target doesn't mean that it is better to have it on only one target. It is better to have on 3 targets. If you want to show like real dummy damage, you need to put it on 3 targets like you would do it in 3v3 or in Soul Shuffle. Even in RPGs, you want to have as many flame shocks as possible. So again, misrepresentation on the spec. And like I'm someone, I can be also a doomer, I can also be a negative guy about like a spec, but I think there is no reason to be negative about, except for the damage. And I understand damage wise it is a bit low, but it has nothing to do with the design. It has to do with balancing, which still needs to happen. And if it comes out right now in the War Within with this balancing, I would agree. I would say, look, okay, it needs a buff. Like you cannot like put it out there with these numbers. But if they get buffed, like just even a little bit, it could help immensely. Like even the lava surge procs, I think, is disingenuous. And I would invite you guys, if you have the beta, please do play right now. Go on 3 dummies, put flame shocks on everyone. You will see that the procs are not that bad. But whatever.
Is that your proc rate is just completely gone. I feel like I'm not generating any instant lava bursts almost at all, and then I'm going to have to hard cast a tremendous amount.
Like he takes a talent for Flame Shock Maelstrom regeneration, guys. Like this talent has immense value if you have on multiple targets. So obviously, if you're not multiple target flame shocking, obviously your Maelstrom will be bad. It is worse than on Dragonflight, don't get me wrong, but it is definitely not helping if you're not multi-targeting. Like, you're not helping the case of Elemental Shaman, right? So,
not to mention your Maelstrom generation is a lot lower. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of casted spells in order to get Maelstrom, in order to spend those on Earthshock specifically. Also, with this build, it seems like Ascendance is almost entirely mandatory now that you will be hard casting.
It is not mandatory. It is just like a talent that you will always play because it's a nice talent to have. Like, again, I think Ascendance, if you're not taking it, it's a bit foolish because of how easy access it is, first and foremost, but also you can take the 2-minute CD Ascendance and do good, or you can do the 25% haste. It's whatever. Personally, I don't play with the haste because I already have my Bloodlust or my Heroism PvP talent, and I also have my Primordial Wave on 3 targets, which it will put me on 85% haste, which is plenty. You don't need to have 100% haste. So, again,
most of your lava bursts. I can see the trade-off that they're trying to give with this is that maybe you can use other spells and not just be flinging lava bursts the entire time, but that gameplay ends up...
He takes the Lightning Shield talent to augment nitro damage, but he doesn't put the shield on himself. Whenever he tries to do the burst, he doesn't use the Fire Elemental, he doesn't use a Meteor. He cannot because he doesn't have Primal Elementalist, remember. He doesn't have Stormkeeper. So obviously...
meaning that you are very stationary. For a lot of any engagement, basically, you're just going to be stuck standing in one spot a lot more than you were previously. And it has a big downside. Also, the only way to make Ascendance feel viable is to run Premiance, which gives you 25% haste during its duration. But it means that it's a 3-minute cooldown. Or you have to take the choice of it being reduced by a minute. If this Ascendance build is going to be a thing, you're basically relying 100% on Ascendance and just spamming out lava bursts and just doing this, where you will literally just spam lava bursts the entire time, trying to proc Ancestors the same way that you did before, but now they're basically hard cast instead of instant, and you can lob in these Ice Furies and Frost Shocks if you were to get interrupted, or for some...
You need to use your Ice Fury into Frost Shock because it does more damage than lava burst. So,
extra damage, but lava burst is what's going to be spawning your ancestors, so you kind of almost always need to be prioritizing lava burst. And you can see that during that cooldown window I was peaking around 1.2 million DPS, which is a decent amount of damage, right? I've been testing a lot of different classes in dungeons and in PvP, peaking around 1.2 million DPS. I think this is the highest DPS I was able to get, honestly, out of any build so far, was from this lava build. But you can see in situations like PvP where this is just not going to work, where if you're relying on so many hard casted spells in a row and
first and foremost, in PvP you will never, like, ever hard cast lava bursts that many times in a row. It's not possible, right? Except if you're like having precog, which I think is going to come back, and also nobody's on you, for example, you can easily do that. But like I said, if you're flame shocking multiple targets, you're going to have more lava surges, although it's still nerfed and like in Dragonflight, which is understandable. You also have lower haste levels, so it's normal that you will have less lava surges. But also the design of the spec is not about lava bursts like jumping around and trying to only do instant cast anymore. You gotta weave in frost shocks, you gotta weave in your ice fury whenever it comes up, you gotta weave in sometimes a stormkeeper, which you didn't take. You gotta do some lightning bolts, you gotta do again your hexes, you gotta do your earthbind totems. You have multiple things that are on GCD, so it's very difficult for me to agree on a lot of stuff that he says, because it isn't just not really the case. It simply isn't. It has nothing to do with damage, it has to do with the philosophy. If you expect it to play like in Dragonflight, the issue is with Dragonflight, Elemental Shaman was a heaven for botters, man. You had always a bot playing Elemental Shaman, like at higher levels. You like it is one of the specs that literally a bot can play. That's how like complex it is, which is not. Because it's like purely with macros, and with whenever you get lava surge, you pretty much like lava burst directly. And since you got like lava surges for free on every single moment, you would easily like only press lava burst into earth shock, lava burst, earth shock, lava burst, earth shock every single time. So I have sympathy to people that do like that playstyle, but it was not sustainable and like long term. Like they had to nerf it, or they had to revert this gameplay, because it was really hard to balance first and foremost, but also you cannot really reward that playstyle compared to, let's say, a destruction warlock, affliction warlock, a demonology warlock, a fire mage, a frost mage, and an arcane mage. Like it's very hard to say, look, Elemental Shaman from Dragonflight was good design, because it was not good design. I think this is good design. Is it good balancing? That's another problem, but it is good design. Only time will tell.
To be so stationary with how potent all the melee DPS are and the uptime that they're going to be getting, that it's just not going to work in the modern version of the game, unfortunately. So it does pump out a lot of single target damage. It plays nothing like the Dragonflight Shaman, but I feel like it might maybe going into a worse direction. But this was the more powerful build. Now Stormbringer, which provides you a lot more AoE, I think Farseer is more than likely going to end up being like a single target situation in PvE only, and probably the PvP build with this Ascendance build that I've got going here.
I agree. I think Farseer will be the default build, and Stormbringer will be the you can say AoE. I would say it's more of a lightning build, which is not that bad.
But Stormbringer, you're going to spec out of all of the Ascendance-oriented talents and go towards the Stormkeeper, and more oriented around the lightning talents. When we look at talents like Thunderstrike Ward, which initially when I saw it was like, this is kind of cool. You get to imbue your shield rather than Flame Tongue Weapon. You get to imbue your shield, but the damage that you get from this talent is less than 1%. Yeah. It's just...
This is an example of balancing being bad right now, right? It is a cool thing, but it is unusable right now. It does so little damage, and even I think so little damage in PvE, so it will get buffed. Or at least it will be changed, maybe. Maybe they are going to say, look, we're going to scrap it. Because it is like purely, first of all, a random ability, which is giving you very low damage. So it's like a bad combination. So I would say design-wise it is interesting, but balancing-wise it is probably unusable right now, at least.
This talent is completely useless. It's less than 1% output. It's not providing any value.
Hence, it doesn't talk about the party utility that you got with the 2% mastery. He doesn't talk about the mastery change as well. So there's a few things here and there.
And same thing for Earthen Rage, which I believe is coming forward from Warlords of Draenor.
I say for Earthen Rage, I don't. It's also a talent I would not never pick in PvP right now. It is too low throughput.
For Shaman, I'm not sure if they just copy pasted it exactly and didn't update the numbers for it, but Earthen Rage was coming in at like less than 1% of your overall damage. It felt really minor and completely, non-consequential. Now, Storm Frenzy, which is replacing the previous version I'm forgetting the name of, which was basically you Earth Shocked, you got an instant Lava Burst proc.
I'm sorry, Sympathies, but like he doesn't. I think he doesn't take Primordial Wave anymore. Like he doesn't take Primordial Wave anymore.
So we'll be running the Storm powered elements.
So this is his build
for the Lightning build specifically. This is gonna be more of a PvE one because I think in PvP, if you want to make this work, you will have to run Volcanic Surge.
That's good. Like for sure, this build you will play Volcanic Surge. I'm going to show you guys. What he does is like this, right? He doesn't take this. He doesn't take this as well. He's taking this, and he take this, and what did he take? He takes this. So for this build, you would take Primordial Elementalist and also Storm Elemental, which, again, I understand Storm Elemental, but it's not that good, so you don't need to play that. Even though if you're playing like Lightning build, understandable, but you can still play Fire Elemental, because obviously if you're playing with Volcanic Surge, your Lava Burst will still do a lot of damage. So if you can augment the damage of fire with like your fire damage with Fire Elemental, you should always do that anyways. Not playing Primordial Wave is a big mistake. I think you could like achieve the same thing by not going that extreme. First of all, foremost, Storm Frenzy is cool, but you have your Lava Surge, which is giving you reduced cast time Lightning Bolt. It is overkill, but I agree, you can take that. Since you're playing a like Lightning build, you can also disregard a few talents here. For example, Everlasting Elements is something you will never take. So those two talents you would take, for example. And you could easily say, look, Lightning Rod is actually not that interesting if you're playing with Stormbringer. Because Stormbringer, what is interesting is that you have a way to get your Lightning Rod with your Tempest, which would be the only application for Tempest to be good, because Tempest has low damage. So the only thing that would be good for Tempest would be the application of Lightning Rod. That aside, you don't even need Fury of the Storms, because it's not that good. It doesn't add too much, except if it balances out to a certain point where it would be good. You could disregard this talent until then. So disregard Fury of the Storms. You have an extra point to play with. What you can do is maybe play with an Ascendance build without the deeply rooted elements, because you're not going to spam Lava Burst as much as before, because obviously your Lava Surges are not going to reset cooldown of Lava Burst. That aside, you could also easily say, look, maybe I actually don't need the extra damage on nature damage, or I don't need the extra fire damage. You could remove this and get, like, for example, First Ascendant, or you can take Preeminence. I would take First Ascendance because this build would be the previous build that you would be playing on Dragonflight with the crit build. So if you had crit, this build would be still fantastic, I think. Or at least it will show being fantastic, because you would have first and foremost your Totem of Wrath. So if whenever you're doing a Primordial Wave, it will give you the Totem of Wrath, giving you 20% more damage on crit. You would have Shamanism, which is basically giving you haste, like a PI, and that with your Primordial Wave, with your Splintered Elements, you would easily get around 80% haste, even if you're not playing around haste, and you would be building crit. This would be still the way to go. And then you can Volcanic Surge, and then you would have more damage on Lightning Bolt, you would have more damage on Lava Burst. This would be the build. This would be the build that you would be playing. But he decides to say, look, we're going to be either going full Lightning, or we're going to be full Fire Elemental, fire damage, which that is not the design of Elemental Shaman anymore. So if you wanted to play only a Fire Elemental Shaman, or only a Lightning Bolt, like Lightning Bolt Machine Elemental Shaman, that is kind of gone. You kind of have to weave in. There's a few talents that wants you to weave in as well. For example, fusion of elements. Whenever you're doing Ice Fury, you will have to cast a nature and a fire spell to get your elemental blast, which is a huge buff to yourself and do a lot of damage as well. You can activate it with just Primordial Wave, or if you're playing with elemental blast, you can also activate it like that. But you have to do either a nature and also a fire spell to be able to activate that. So obviously they don't want you to only cast Lava Burst, because you will miss out a lot of damage on the Ice Fury, on the Frost Shocks, on the Primordial Wave, on the Elemental Blast. So this is, I'm just not agreeing.
But the build with this changes a bit differently, where and you're going to be
still need to Flame Shock multiple targets.
Able to cast Lightning Bolt a lot more frequently, and you're just going to be hard casting most of the time. You'll get Stormkeepers that occasionally make your Lightning Bolt instant. You can lob.
Guys, it is not as bad as hard casting as Affliction Warlock, because you have multiple schools of spells. You have Frost Shock, you have Ice Fury whenever it gets procced, you have your Lightning Bolt, you have your Lava Burst, you have even your Primordial Wave, and guess what? All these spells that I've just said are all separated by schools. So if you are kicked on Lava Burst, it is not the end of the day, because you have Lightning Bolts, you have your Frost Shocks, you have your Primordial Wave, you can even Lightning Lasso afterwards if you are like very scared. If you're kicked on Lightning Bolt, who cares? You have your Lava Burst, you have your Frost Shocks. So it feels so weird that people are like afraid to cast as Elemental Shaman while you are one of the specs that has the multiple schools of spells. And I'm
in a couple of the procs as well. I'm going to put Stormkeeper on my action bar in place of Ascendants, though. So we got Ascendants. We can get those out to get towards our Earth Shocks, so we can start looking to make our Lightning Bolts fast cast. And this is the problem with the build, is that sure, it's nice that the Earth Shocks make a Lightning Bolt fast, but
he is talented for Bloodlust. He doesn't use Bloodlust. So again, you're missing out a lot of stuff that obviously, if you're not using it, it will be useless. It will be feeling like you're a bad spec. But you have to use your whole thing to show and showcase to your viewers how good or how bad it can be. For me right now, if I didn't know Elemental Shaman, I would say that it would be trash. But I know Elemental Shaman. I tested on the PTR. I play Elemental Shaman. Sorry, it is not trash. It is good design.
You don't generate enough Maelstrom in order to really effectively utilize it. Like, yeah, you'll never get 2 stacks of it almost, as you can to generate some talents like I'm just running right now.
Like, he doesn't talk about Tempest. It is low damage. He can talk about that. He didn't do that. But it is unkickable, so you could easily just like do Tempest without a worry. They will probably stun your Fury, but Fear what? It doesn't do too much damage as well. The cast time is ridiculous though, but it gets reduced by nature's storm's nature or whatever, storm's fury, which is a buff which you get whenever you're going to do an earth shock. So there is moments where it feels like it's going to be good. So
that are just doing, so even if the chain lightning's bouncing to extra mobs, I'm still doing a third of the DPS.
You would never like chain lightning without a buff, by the way. Like never, even in PvP. You would do that if you're doing a Tempest and you're picking the talent that if you're hitting 2 targets, you get like a buff to your Chain Lightning being instant and doing extra damage. Then you would do Chain Lightnings because it would be very good for melee cleave situations where you could just like destroy them with Chain Lightnings. But you would never
of that Ascendance build. Now, to be fair, I think this is like one of the more first iterations for this. So hopefully there's going to be more that can be done for it.
That's a point that I can agree. It is one of the first iterations, so they can still change a lot of stuff. But I think design-wise, there is nothing to change. It's like purely balancing. Like they can buff even Lava Surge procs for what it matters, right? But I think a lot of people are like not testing the right way to have like correct use of Lava Bursts.
But at the moment, it feels really rough. It feels really rough. Feels like it's going to be a tough performer. You still get the Ice Fury procs, and Ice Fury is just instant baseline, which does feel really nice. I'll say, like, out of everything that has happened for the Ice Fury specifically, getting the Ice Fury procs is good, but the amount of Lava Burst that you get is just so tremendously small now that it just doesn't feel like Ellie anymore almost. You're just hard casting so much more. Like, how many procs have I really gotten during this time? And it's supposed to be increased procs on a single target.
It is increased... it is increased compared to Dragonflight, not increased compared to AoE flame shocks.
With the changes, like even if I multi-target, it's not gonna really up the proc rate too much. I mean, as soon as I say that, I get one, of course, but you'll notice that the proc rate's way less, right? If you're playing on Dragonflight, if you have flame shock on like 3 things, your lava burst button's gonna be lighting up a lot more frequently than this one currently is.
Interesting to
but if you are getting enough,
you just see like he gets like lava surges on lava surge procs. By the way, he had on 2 targets. On 3 targets, it will be even more. That's just reading comprehension. Again, I'm not going to jab on him because, again, he streams like for 8 hours a day. So obviously he's maybe a bit tired whenever he reads some things. But it is written as increased single target lava surge and decreased AoE lava surges, like flame shocks. It doesn't mean that it is less than AoE flame shocks, because it is still needed in PvE to do so. It is still needed to do so in PvP as well. So it's not about the damage, it's about the lava surge procs. The flame shock damage is really like nothing for elemental Shaman compared to a enhancement Shaman. So this is like, I don't know.
Enough lava burst procs and you're able to generate a bit more maelstrom. I think the nerfs that they made to your maelstrom generation might have been overkill, and maybe you can make this work. That would be the only thing that I could see this saving this, is if you're able to generate more maelstrom. Previous versions of Shaman, this feedback, because obviously this is the beta. So like your Stormkeeper DPS a lot has gone before.
Yeah, I'm going to stop the video for this. Again, I hope you guys did see the whole video. It's a long video. I'm very sorry, but I wanted to get it off of my chest because I feel like a lot of people like are talking about like misinformation and they didn't test themselves, which I understand. Not everyone has the beta, but like, don't think because someone is like casting or is a former pro or does streaming for a living that he is always going to be right, because it's not the case. Like for example, asmongold saying PvP is dead, which I think is flourishing in War Within. Like saying, like subtlety saying that elemental Shaman is a tragedy, which I think like design wise it is a great design. Just needs some balancing on the damage. That's true. Lava Burst doesn't do too much damage, but that's balancing. That they can still fix it, or we can find a new build. Maybe we need to build mastery instead of haste. I don't know. We need to test a lot of stuff. But I think right now, judging for what it is, based on numbers, is just a wrong take. Also, taking the wrong talents is also the wrong takes to take. So, obviously, I'm going to end the video on this. Please test it yourself or watch multiple videos. You can watch my videos or you can watch other videos about elemental Shaman. There are a lot of people that are very happy about it. There are some people that are not happy for good reasons and also some bad reasons, which I think with this video that I showed you, it's mostly about bad reasons because it's purely about how you build your spec. I think he didn't build it correctly enough to actually have that oomph feeling. He was playing Dragonflight Elemental Shaman while it is the War Within. So it will not work. You have to adapt yourself. But anyways, thank you for watching this video. Really appreciate you. It has been a very long video, a very late video as well. But hopefully it did learn you something and did make you a bit more hopeful about Elemental Shaman, because there's still a few things that needs to be balanced. But I do feel like the design is very good. Again, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye.